creepy clip, uploaded by Jack on TikTok, documents a terrifying disruption in a bedroom that should have been a place of rest. It was after 11 when the hush of the house was shattered by a sound that no one expects to hear coming from inside their own walls. Jack had been filming the door of his room, sensing that something was brewing in the hallway. The air was thick with tension as he waited for a sign. Whatever it was that entered that space, it did not announce itself. Visible in the recording is the door handle being violently rattled and the wood vibrating under the weight of heavy, rapid pounding. The force is consistent and rhythmic, yet no shadow or figure is visible through the frosted glass panels of the door. What convinces people this wasn't staged is the intensity of the shaking, which would require a physical presence that simply isn't there. Critics of the footage zero in on the possibility of a mechanical device or a person standing just out of sight, which means whoever was standing on that side of the door was actively waiting for Jack to open it. Standing on the other side of a locked door while something unseen beats against the wood is an experience that would leave anyone rattled. This chilling footage, shared by theseSCARY on YouTube, takes us deep into the fluorescent-lit bowels of a seemingly deserted warehouse. The vast open space is filled with the cold hum of machinery and stacks of cardboard boxes that offer plenty of places for eyes to watch from the gloom. theseSCARY had been documenting the late shift void when the atmosphere began to shift, turning the familiar workspace into a maze of long shapes. The camera was still rolling when something walked into frame that had no reason to be there. The recording reveals a metal rack being violently shoved across the floor by an invisible hand, its wheels screeching against the concrete, as if something is actively trying to block theseSCARY's path. The case for this being authentic rests on the weight and momentum of the racks, which make accidental movement or a draft impossible. Anyone looking for a natural explanation points to the possibility of thin monofilament wires attached to the equipment, leaving theseSCARY trapped between heavy equipment that seems to have a mind of its own. Finding yourself trapped in a basement while the environment moves against you is enough to make anyone seek the exit. This haunting video, posted by Fred on YouTube, captures a restless night in a quiet household. It was nearly 1:30 in the morning, and the hallway was thick with the kind of oppressive stillness that only comes when you are truly alone. Fred had already been disturbed several times by persistent knocking at his door, and he decided to document the inexplicable activity. The atmosphere inside the house was growing heavy, as if the air itself were anticipating a sudden rupture.
Amigos, son las 1:26 de la madrugada y estoy solo. Ya van 3 veces que me tocan la puerta a mi casa y relativamente pues yo estoy solo, pero pues la verdad es que sí me da miedo. La neta no sé ni qué onda en mi casa y pues sí me da un chingo de miedo. Les juro. No mames, vete a la verga. No mames, no mames. Vete a la verga. No, neta, vete a la verga. Se acaba de caer esta madre. No mames. No mames, no.
Unmistakably present in the frame is a series of violent disturbances that begin when a heavy decorative rhino is thrown from a shelf with impossible force. The camera pan reveals the object lying on the floor, far from its original perch, before another loud bang echoes through the house. What convinced people this wasn't staged is the sheer velocity of the movement, which seems inconsistent with a simple fall or a hidden string. On the other side of the argument, critics of the footage zero in on the erratic camera movement and the possibility of a second person hidden just out of frame, which would explain why the object travels with such specific, targeted force toward the center of the room. Activity like this turns a safe home into a place of active fear.
Yeah, let's go. No mames, vete a la verga. No.
This unsettling recording, shared by All Day Every Day on TikTok, begins with a routine inspection of a backyard at night. The air was completely static, and the only sound was the crunch of dry grass underfoot as he approached a small red shed. Everything about the property felt regular, just another peaceful evening checking on the outbuildings before heading back inside. He had no reason to expect anything out of the place. The hush that followed was the kind that makes you hold your breath without knowing why.
Something is banging around and making noise in one of our sheds. I'm not really sure what to expect. I'm gonna go check it out.
The recording reveals a tall, dark mass moving with predatory fluidness outside the shed, visible only through the gaps in the wooden planks as the flashlight sweeps the interior. It moves without a single sound, a feat that defies the dry, debris-strewn ground surrounding the building. Those who believe this is genuine point to the creature's impossible gait and its later appearance, where it is seen slipping into the house while the man is still outside. Skeptics, however, point to the possibility of a person in a morph suit or clever digital layering designed to create a viral paranormal moment, though the speed at which it moves toward the doorway suggests a level of coordination that feels deeply wrong. Standing in your own backyard and realizing you aren't the one doing the hunting is a thought that stays with you long after the lights go out. This unsettling footage, shared by Linda on TikTok, documents a quiet afternoon in what appears to be a standard office building or clinic. The environment is bright and clinical, filled with the mundane sounds of a workday nearing its end. Linda was recording the hallway, perhaps simply documenting the stillness of the empty corridors. Everything about the scene suggests a routine that should have remained undisturbed. The air in the room seemed to shift just before the lock on the door began to rattle.
Apa itu Murah. Balik.
The recording reveals the heavy double doors being violently shaken from the outside, the handle clattering as if someone is desperate to enter. Despite the transparent glass panes, there is no visible figure or shadow on the other side. Linda eventually opens the entrance, only to find the hallway completely deserted. Those who believe this is genuine point to the physical force required to move such doors without any visible hand on the glass. The rational explanation centers on the possibility of a person crouching below the sightline of the panes, a deception that makes the empty hallway feel like a predatory invitation. Standing alone in a silent office is one thing, but knowing the door you just opened should have had someone behind it changes the way you look at every empty room. This chilling clip documents a routine walk through a darkened home that quickly descends into something far more predatory. The recorder moves slowly up the stairs, the only sound being the heavy thud of footsteps on wood and the low hum of the house settling. Everything about the environment feels heavy, as if the air itself is waiting for a rupture in the quiet. The temperature in the stairwell seemed to drop as the camera reached the top, revealing a hallway that felt far more crowded than it had any right to be. Caught on film is a pale humanoid head peeking out from behind a wall at the end of a dark corridor. The figure remains remarkably still, its features washed out by the flashlight's glare before the recorder's panic forces a sudden retreat. Those who believe this is genuine point to the anatomical detail of the eyes and the way the presence seems to anticipate the light's movement. Those who doubt it note the static nature of the encounter and the possibility of a mask or a prop being placed in the darkness, suggesting the apparition was aware of the camera long before it was caught in the flashlight's beam. Finding a pale face watching you from the edge of your vision is enough to make anyone afraid to look back. This viral clip from Paraworld on TikTok documents a routine night for a security guard that turns into something inexplicable. He was alone in the monitoring room, surrounded by the sterile glow of computer screens and the cold vacuum of an empty office building. There was no reason to expect his shift to be anything other than average, just a long stretch of quiet hours. He had settled into his workspace with no suspicion of being watched.
He called his boss asking him, why didn't y'all tell me they had a new employee, right? He constantly looking back, right? He's talking to somebody, right? Just as creepy. Look, having a whole conversation with somebody, right? Saying that somebody came and he dapping that person off and everything. Now see, look, y'all see when he dapped them off, look what happened. He dapped them off, you see that shadow? And then the shadow goes over here and he pulling the chair out for him. He swore to God he sat there and had a whole conversation with this person. He moved over talking to him and everything. Y'all better protect yourselves.
The camera picks up the guard looking up and appearing to engage in a full conversation with an invisible guest, even reaching out to shake an unseen hand. A dark silhouette is briefly visible moving across the floor before a red chair is pulled back by an unidentified shape as if to accommodate a visitor. What no debunker has satisfactorily explained is the guard's natural physical interaction with the empty air. For anyone looking to debunk this, the focus falls on the possibility of a mental health episode or a highly coordinated prank involving thin wires, though the way the silhouette interacts with the floor remains a point of contention. Welcoming an entity you cannot see into your personal space is a thought that makes the late shift feel far more heavy. This strange footage, posted by Jessica on TikTok, documents a journey into a home that was supposed to be completely abandoned. The house sat quiet for years, but as Jessica moved through the darkened hallway, the stillness began to feel manufactured. There was a rhythm to the environment that shouldn't exist in an empty space, a sense that the gloom was retreating just before her beam could catch them.
Did you hear it? What's that?
The frame holds something that shouldn't be there, a series of heavy, rhythmic thuds echoing through the kitchen, coupled with the sound of drawers sliding open and cabinet doors being manipulated by an invisible intruder. Jessica scans the room, revealing empty counters and open cabinets, yet the mechanical grinding of the hardware continues right in front of her. Those who've studied this footage argue that the coordination of the movements suggests a deliberate, sentient presence rather than a random settling of the house. The most compelling argument against authenticity is the possibility of a person hidden behind the island, which makes the possibility of a prank seem less likely than a house that refuses to stay dormant. Being in an empty house where the furniture moves on its own is enough to question if you are alone. This disturbing video, shared by Dustin on TikTok, takes us inside a restaurant storage area at 4 in the morning. The building should have been deserted, yet Dustin found himself surrounded by doors that refused to stay shut and an atmosphere that had grown increasingly oppressive. He moved through the narrow aisles of supplies, his breathing heavy as he tried to make sense of the abrupt disturbances.
I came back here because I needed to get some toilet paper to like restock the front. And should not be open. It is like 4 o'clock in the morning.
He's coming.
There's not a light over here. Hello? Hello? I'm just gonna shut the door. And I was gonna do like a little cooking video thing with y'all. But I fucking brought... Okay, that wasn't earlier. Like, this door stays open because for some reason, the woman in the morning, she always complains that like this room is like freakishly cold. But that wasn't open. Okay.
What the lens captures is a series of doors slamming shut with significant force, seemingly reacting to Dustin's presence as he navigated the hallway. The mechanical click of the locks and the vibration of the walls suggest a physical interaction that defies any natural draft. The believer's strongest argument here is the timing of the events, which occur exactly when Dustin turns his back or enters a new corridor. For anyone looking to debunk this, the focus falls on the possibility of pneumatic closers or a hidden assistant, leaving Dustin to navigate a workspace where the doors are being shut by hands he cannot see. Knowing that you are locked inside a building with something that wants the doors closed is a thought that would keep anyone from working late. This unexplained video, shared by Errol on YouTube, captures a late night in what should have been a peaceful home. The living room was quiet, with only the dim light of a television flickering against the walls. Errol had noticed something felt off, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. frame by frame. You can see the moment a decorative garland on the window is violently yanked, followed by a heavy object falling in the darkness. Errol's breath hitches as he pans the camera, struggling to identify the source of the intrusion while the cabinet doors remain open. Those who believe this is real point to the irregular nature of the movement, which doesn't resemble the smooth pull of a wire. Critics zero in on the low lighting and the potential for a collaborator to be hidden behind the curtains. This skeptical case is built around the camera's focus, which leaves the point of contact out of sight. Having something invisible yank on your decorations while you stand just feet away is enough to make any home feel like it's no longer yours. This spine-chilling video, posted by Luis on TikTok, begins in the deep shadows of a concrete storage basement where the air was heavy with the smell of damp dust. Luis was making his way through the cluttered aisles, his flashlight revealing stacks of old boxes and abandoned furniture that had long since been forgotten. Nothing about the evening suggested his solitary walk would be interrupted.
Cosas viejas, pero la verdad, ahorita yo estoy solito aquí. Tengo mucho miedo, no mames. ¿Qué fue eso? Ay, no sé si sea buena idea. No sé si sea buena idea. Yo aquí no hay nada. No sé qué fue eso. O sea, está súper rarísimo. No sé qué habrá sido, la verdad. Pero donde más escuches allá arriba y la neta me están temblando las piernas para subir. No, no mames. Algo se está moviendo allá arriba. No mames. No mames, ¿qué fue eso? No manches. No mames. ¿Qué fue eso? ¿Qué fue eso? No mames. No mames. Esto fue lo que se movió. Ay, me está temblando la mano. Ay, tengo las orejas hasta calientes. Aquí no, pues aquí nadie tiene acceso. O sea, no sube nadie. O sea, ahorita les voy a enseñar que no hay nada, ni nadie aquí. No mames. De hecho, que está como cerrada. Aquí no hay nada. Miren aquí desde... No mames. ¿Qué fue eso? No mames. La verdad es que esta luz que está acá fue la que me hizo... No hay nadie. Aquí no sé qué pedo. No mames. ¿Qué fue eso? No manches.
Captured without warning by the camera. A violent series of events where metal structures and supplies are thrown across the floor as if by an invisible hand. Luis retreats toward the stairs, while the sounds of physical destruction echo through the subterranean void. The element that makes staging seem implausible is the weight of the objects being manipulated, which would require significant mechanical force to move with such speed. Critics of the footage zero in on the low visibility and large pillars, suggesting that a second person could be concealed to physically push the items. which would explain why the source of the movement is never directly seen. Cornered in a basement while the environment is used as a weapon is a realization that would make anyone run.
No mames. Algo se está moviendo ahí arriba. No mames.
From the doors flying open in a hospital ward to the silent presence darting through a shed and the heavy metal structures being hurled in a basement, these paranormal encounters show just how thin the veil can be. This scary video compilation proves that our homes and workplaces are never truly empty. That wraps up this one for Pale Playback. Subscribe so you never miss an upload, and if you think what you just saw was unsettling, wait until you see what's on your screen right now.